by this?
Well, that's a little bit misleading. I don't want to overhaul it, I want to get rid of it entirely. So the stumpage system was built, many, many decades ago. I doubt there's anybody even in government today that even knows the full system well, with the exception of maybe one or two people. Look, it's antiquated, it is hurting our forest sector, it needs to go bye-bye. What we want to do is we want to put a tax on the end product, and what we will do is we'll also have input credits. So the more you do with the tree, the more you do with the fiber, the more value you create up the chain, the more input credits that you have, so that it creates an incentive to do more with the fiber and to utilize the full fiber, as opposed to what we have today, which is a tax that basically just prevents the innovation that we need in our forest sector.
Thank you. The next question, you may feel you've already answered. It is, what is the BC Conservative position on climate change?
Well, I think you might find some different answers from different candidates that we have, but let me just say this. Climate change is real. Man is impacting our climate, but it is not an existential threat, it's not a crisis. And so that's why we're going to get rid of the carbon tax, because quite frankly, taxing people into poverty is not going to change the weather.
Next question. Do you plan on legislating parity for landlords?
Parity for landlords. Well, look, I actually believe, like I said earlier, I believe strongly in private property rights. I know too many people today that have rental units that do not want to rent them because there's too many problems in the system. Because if you end up with a bad tenant, you could be really in rough shape. They can destroy the property, they can force you to not be able to get rid of them. I mean, it can be really, really challenging. And so there needs to be able to be a balance there. I don't want to say that renters shouldn't have rights, because they should, because sometimes you have bad landlords too. But we need to be able to find a balance to make sure that people want to be in the industry. Because at the end of the day, we need to significantly expand rental units in this province. We need to be looking at programs, for example, like the old MERV program from the 1960s and 70s, where the vast majority of our rental stock was built out, which allows for rapid depreciation of capital to get to a profit faster, and it's a way to be able to encourage housing unit to be done. But companies are telling me, and individuals are telling me, they do not want to get into the rental market because it's just too difficult. You can't, with the restrictions that are in place, with all the problems, people wanting it. So we need to find a way to get back to a balance there, respecting private property rights, but making sure that it's balanced. And people say, that the pendulum has swung too far, the pendulum has to come back, and I say, no. The pendulum has swung here, but you always have to remember, you'll never go back to what it was. Pendulums also go forward in time. And so it's over here, and it's going to come back to something, and we need to shape what that's going to look like going forward in terms of where that should come. And that's what we'll try to do to make sure we find that balance.
Thank you. The next question is, are you planning on working on bringing industry to Powell River, working with the city?
Yes. So I mean, look, there's all kinds of things that are proposed for the mill site, and there's so much potential here for the community. I want to be able to see economic opportunity in all corners of this province. I want to look and sit down with local governments, with the chambers, with business people, and say, how do we make things work here? How do we create the jobs that are going to keep families in their community, and that are going to make sure that the communities, have the opportunity to be able to build the services that are needed? That's what a government should do. And the government shouldn't come in and just mandate things. The government should come in and work with communities to get things happening. So we'll look for opportunities in every corner of this province, including Powell River. There's a guy in the back that's got his hand up impatiently. Can you keep it short?
Yeah. Would you consider bringing your nuclear ideas to Powell River?
So that's a good question. This might maybe another question. So I'll go into that. So nuclear power. Look, we're net importers of electricity right now. And Site C to bring on 10% more power is not going to be enough to meet all of our needs going forward. We are going to need to significantly increase electricity. So if everybody wanted to have a heat pump, and everybody wanted, and every household was required it, and every business like this was required to have a heat pump, British Columbia would need to build the equivalent of 6 or 7 more Site C dams. We're likely not going to build another major dam in BC. So what does that mean? Where's that power going to come from? Wind and solar can be part of the mix. Run of the river can be part of the mix. But run of the river is base load, but wind and solar are not base load. And so they need to be firmed up. And so we need to think about where that power is going to come from. Should it be coal? Well, most people don't want to use coal, so that's fine. Should it be natural gas? Well, if we're trying to replace natural gas, you wouldn't use natural gas for power generation. So we have to think about how to build out that base load. And so nuclear is a question we have to have, whether it's small modular reactors or other types of technology. But I will tell you this, we are going to make sure that we have an open and honest conversation with the people in BC about what it means, what the options are, what that means for electricity rates, and how we can expect to look at that building out, and how many decades it will take to build out any additional significant capacity. And we're going to be open and straightforward on it, because all the choices have consequences. All the choices are not easy. So we need to make sure that people are brought along to the conversation, are engaged. It's great, the younger people really like, small modular reactors. Older generation still worries about glowing in the dark. We've got to make sure that we deal with all these sort of issues, have the conversation, because quite frankly, if the public decides they don't want nuclear, then let's look at whatever alternatives we can. I'm going to take one more from the floor if I can. Yep, go ahead.